Good morning and welcome to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. Our focus this morning will begin with a subject that has been a major topic of conversation in recent weeks: suicide. Suicide's a major national public health issue in the U.S. In 2016, there were nearly 45,000 recorded suicides, making it the 10th most common cause of death in the U.S. It's suspected that due to the stigma surrounding suicide, it is generally underreported. My first guest is Leah Rolando, who is a suicide prevention specialist for Mental Health America of Wisconsin. Hi, Leah.
Hi, Andrea.
Glad to have you here. I'd like to start off, if you would, have you telling us more about Mental Health America of Wisconsin and what it is you do.
Yeah, so Mental Health America of Wisconsin is our state chapter from Mental Health America nationally. We provide advocacy, education, and service through a variety of programs: Safe Families, Healthy Homes. We have a new wellness clinic, so we have therapists that can meet the needs of people in the community. And then my position is specifically suicide prevention. Yeah. So through that, we do local Milwaukee County suicide prevention and also statewide suicide prevention.
Wow. Yeah, so someone would have had to literally be living under a rock not to have heard the recent news of fashion designer Kate Spade taking her own life, and then literally days later you had celebrity chef and TV personality Anthony Bourdain, who then took his life. So what were your thoughts, considering what it is you do on a daily basis, when you heard this news?
Yeah, initially it was very heavy. And of course, everybody, needs a little bit of time to process that. And so we actually had Friday morning a Prevent Suicide Greater Milwaukee quarterly meeting. And so a lot of people there, it was heavy on their hearts. And so we knew that we were going to start getting calls and people were going to start talking about this. And my fear is that we're not going to talk about it in a healthy way. But more often this week, I've seen people share messages of hope. So it's been encouraging to see that. But initially it's heavy and it's hard every time.
There's a lot of water cooler talk too when these big stories break, of course. And the one thing I kept hearing over and over again is that, but they were rich. People always think that, you have to have financial issues or something, but I think it also drives home the point that this can happen to anyone across social and economic boundaries, right?
Right. Yeah, there's nothing that can make us immune to it. Anybody is at risk, and everybody's been affected by suicide in some way or another. So.
Well, with that said, when these type of things happen, your organization, like you said, will receive more phone calls. You're going to get calls from the media to talk about it. So this is your opportunity to spread awareness. What's that one message that you want to make sure you get out there?
We really want to let people know that if you do center the voices of people who have lived through suicide attempts or who have struggled with depression or live with chronic suicidality, that there is a way to get through it, that suicide doesn't have to be an option. So when people talk about their experiences getting treatment or being in community and getting help that way, there's a sense of a contagion of hope, if you will. I don't know who might have coined that, but I've been hearing that a lot. People talk about suicide contagion, but if you flip the script and center the voices of people who have lived through this and do have things to live for, you can emphasize this contagion of hope and keep spreading that, letting people know that it is okay to not be okay and it will get better.
Yeah, and when you talk about contagion, a lot of times you see copycat scenarios, especially when you have headlines like these, and then these two individuals who are very well known right there together. So have you seen an increase of calls coming in for people who are seeking help?
Me, in my position, not personally, but we do know that anytime there's a high-profile suicide, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline and the crisis text line, volume definitely increases. So on one hand, it's good that people are reaching out for help, that people know about these numbers and people know about the resources, but it's hard,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So that is a thing, and it really matters how the media talks about it, and it matters how our organizations talk about it. So again, emphasizing that hope and recovery, and that suicide doesn't have to be an option.
Absolutely, and some startling statistics came out recently as well. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, they released data that shows suicide numbers increase significantly across the U.S. So you have between 1999 and 2016, suicide rates rose in nearly every state in the union, some higher than others, but I'm interested in knowing why you think we are seeing these numbers continue to rise.
Yeah, so the CDC report does point to economic distress, economic stress, and relationship problems, things that a lot of us do deal with, but this sense of not feeling connected and the sense of not feeling belonging definitely increase somebody's risk for suicide. So in the report, they talk about what are the reasons cited when people die by suicide. And another statistic that they have in there is about half of people who die by suicide actually don't have a diagnosed mental health condition at the time of death. We can, people can parse apart. Maybe there was a mental health concern and they weren't diagnosed, but a lot of times it might not be somebody who's currently in treatment. So that just says we need to broaden our efforts, and it's not just a mental health system.
Absolutely,
type of issue.
and I'm glad you bring that up, because every time there's certain situations we look at the world of mental health, which does play a role in many cases. But like you said, there are numbers that show that a lot of times people are dealing with things where they just can't see a light at the end of the tunnel, and that's what they resort to. But that's part of the reason why we have you here today. We want everybody to better understand how they can help make a difference in someone's life. So statistically, you have men who die by suicide 3.5 times more than women. Women attempt suicide 2 times more often than men, and the rate of suicide is highest in middle-aged white men in particular, and like we were just saying, most of the time it's not linked to mental health. Yeah, wow, that's really some heavy stuff. So if you would give us an idea of what the statistics are looking like in Milwaukee County and the state of Wisconsin when we talk about suicide.
Yeah, so we know in Wisconsin from 2012, I believe, to 2016, we've been losing about 800 people to suicide per year. Wow. So it's 800 lives lost annually. And the CDC report is pointing out that this is, a national average that's increasing, or at least reporting is increasing. And I know in Milwaukee County, we've lost, in 2017, 156 people to suicide, so just in that year.
So it is important, thank you for sharing those numbers. It's important for people to understand some of the signs to look for in individuals. You have friends of Kate Spade who said that, when Robin Williams committed suicide or took his own life some years back, she was fixated on that situation. But then you had friends of Anthony Bourdain who said, he showed us nothing. There were no signs. So if someone's showing signs, what should be a red flag?
Yeah. So even if you Google signs to look for, there are a lot of resources out there. So that's good. I've even noticed the more people talk about this, the more websites will put together on their homepage. These are the signs. So of course people can look into that. Feeling hopelessness. So somebody expressing feeling hopeless. Any recent crisis or impending crisis, a job loss, any economic stress, a divorce, like I mentioned, relationship problems. Even with youth, you feel like when you're in a relationship and that relationship ends, it's the end of your world. If you're so invested in that person, and that's adults too. Those are red flags. So those are behavioral changes and situational changes that you might notice. So if you know
someone's going through these type of situations, just kind of pay extra attention and kind of see where people are and get a feel. So if someone says that they wish that they could take their own life or just does not want to be here any longer, what does someone do?
Yeah, that was a great question. So I don't know if you're familiar with QPR, it's a gatekeeper training. There's a lot out there. We really focus on QPR in Milwaukee because it's question, persuade, refer. So asking someone, are you thinking about suicide or are you thinking of killing yourself? P is the persuade, so encouraging them to get help, and then R is the referrals. And so depending on where you live, your resources might be different, but that could look like calling the Suicide Prevention Lifeline with that person or giving them the text line number and staying with them to text that. Suicidal thoughts are common, but again, you don't have to act on them. And so asking a person, do you have a plan? Do you have access to means? And do you have a time frame that you're planning on ending your life is really important, because you don't need to automatically call 911. The only time you would need to do that is when somebody's imminent risk. So they give you an answer to all of those things, and they really tell you, I am going to do this at this time. You know, this is my method. You know, they've thought about it.
Yeah. So, and there's a myth, you know, sometimes you hear people say, well, if someone tells you they're going to do it, then they're probably not going to.
Yeah.
That's not true.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm
glad you brought that up.
Yeah. So we talk about the gun crisis in America. Sadly, you've got 48% of suicides that occur by firearms, and it does make this a public health crisis. And it's not only fueled by mental health. We've established that. You've got young people. We've had a young man's dad on this show talking about how he took his own life because he was being bullied.
Oh, yeah.
There are members of the LGBT community, whether they're having issues of coming out to their family and friends or they're being shunned or whatever the case, they deal with it. You have every shade of people that live on this earth, rich, poor, no matter the case. People are affected by this each and every day. So what is a website where people can go to get more information, to kind of really get a better understanding of what it is you do and how you can help?
Yeah, so our statewide website is preventsuicidewisconsin.org. It will be preventsuicidewi.org. And then for Milwaukee resources, preventsuicideGreaterMilwaukee.org is our website for that.
Okay, and you guys do have a emergency line for people to call, hotline, so to speak. So someone, if they're in need of talking to someone at that very moment, they can call. And you guys have actually taken it a step further where people can text that's in need of help. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so those aren't us directly. So if they would go to our website, we'll have the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline on there, and they can call that, and that will route them to crisis services. And then the crisis text line is a national text line. It's 24/7, it's free. And in Wisconsin, you text the word Hope Line into that 741-741 number, and then you're matched with a crisis counselor that can anonymously walk you through whatever the crisis might be. And people ask, like, what defines a crisis? And whatever a crisis is to you, that's a crisis. If you feel you're in crisis, you're in crisis. So,
well put. Thank you so much for coming by. I think this is an important conversation.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Leah Rolando is the Suicide Prevention Specialist for Mental Health America of Wisconsin. For more information, visit preventsuicidewi.org. And when we return to our Issues Milwaukee, we'll discuss a program that delivers breast health information to Milwaukee communities most in need. We'll find out more about Conversations with Komen, presented by Kohl's, right after this.